Imagine being a senior government official in your own country's capital.
Right.
But to travel just a few miles outside the city limits, you cannot take a car. The risk of ambush is just too high.
Yes, the roads are completely compromised.
Exactly. You have to take a helicopter because insurgents completely own the road networks surrounding the city.
Good morning. Today is June 30, 2026. You are listening to the East Africa Threat Brief. Somalia's security crisis deepens.
Good morning. We certainly have a complex operational picture to evaluate today.
We do. And before we begin, this deep dive is sponsored by ProWave AI and is generated by Stylo News. For your awareness, Stylo News is an AI-powered news application.
Right. It's actually the consumer version of Stylo Intel Ops.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
is enterprise-grade software utilized daily by global governments, military branches, and multinational businesses to track emerging crises.
So what this means is that you, the listener, are getting unique, direct access to a tool designed expressly to support high-level global decision makers. Well said. So our mission in this intelligence brief is clear, and it is objective. We are going to unpack the primary patterns of events in the East Africa region over the past 2 weeks.
Right. We will examine the structural impacts at the local, national, and international levels.
And we'll also analyze the differing perspectives of key decision makers and forecast what you should watch for in the near term. To establish our baseline, the threat environment for United States forces and embassies across East Africa remains elevated.
It does. The intelligence indicates that the highest immediate risk is concentrated in Mogadishu, specifically targeting the Hélène Enclave.
Right, the Hélène Enclave. And we are also tracking secondary elevated risks in Nairobi and northeastern Kenya.
Yes. And looking at the tactical capabilities of the actors involved, the modes of attack remain highly consistent.
What are we primarily seeing there?
Well, the primary threats to hardened fixed sites like the Hélène Enclave, which houses numerous diplomatic and international missions, come from vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices.
VBIEDs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
VBIEDs and indirect fire, such as mortars. The insurgents possess the supply chains and the technical expertise to just continue launching these specific types of attacks against heavily fortified targets.
And, when we evaluate the source material, a striking pattern emerges regarding the endurance of Al-Shabaab. The intelligence indicates their survival is not strictly a military phenomenon.
No, it's not. It is directly enabled by Somali political instability.
Right. The fragmentation of the federal structure appears to be the primary oxygen source for the insurgency, which raises an immediate operational question.
What's that?
Well, if the federal government in Mogadishu and the various regional states all share a unified mandate to combat Al-Shabaab, why are we seeing confirmed intelligence reports of the Puntland regional government actively blocking federal troops from moving through its territory?
It's a critical question.
Yeah.
And the mechanism behind that contradiction is a profound constitutional and political deadlock.
So it's not a military miscommunication.
Not at all. When we look at the perspectives of the key decision makers, the friction is largely centered around the centralization of power. Somalia's president, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, is currently refusing to vacate office amid a delayed election cycle.
Which obviously creates a legitimacy crisis in Mogadishu.
Precisely. And regional leaders are reacting defensively to this. For example, Jubilee's president, Ahmed Madobe, is publicly warning against politicizing the national army.
Right. He's calling for immediate inclusive dialogue.
Yes. Because political legitimacy is currently contested, a regional state like Puntland views the movement of federal troops not as a counterterrorism reinforcement, but as a potential instrument of federal coercion meant to force them into line.
Wow. And compounding this deficit of public trust are the severe allegations circulating within the Somali information space regarding the Mira, or khat, trade.
Yes, the caught trade rumors are highly disruptive right now.
Extremely. There are highly publicized claims alleging that the Somali president is personally involved in a massive logistics network moving this mild stimulant leaf. It's purportedly generating around $6 million a month through a complex web of brokers.
That's a staggering figure.
It really is. But putting aside whether these specific allegations are eventually proven true or false, the mechanics of this kind of shadow economy are what matters to the intelligence picture. How does an operation like that function, and how does the mere rumor of it impact the security situation?
Well, the logistics of the caught trade require immense rapid coordination because the product must be consumed fresh.
Right. It goes bad very quickly.
Exactly. It involves daily flights, immediate ground transport, and a massive cash-based distribution network. So If the public believes that senior federal officials are utilizing their positions to control and profit from a shadow logistics network of that scale,
It entirely corrodes the legitimacy required to govern.
exactly. In an environment where basic security and resources are scarce, narratives regarding high-level corruption act as a massive force multiplier for insurgents.
Because they can point to it and say, look how corrupt the capital is.
Precisely. Al-Shabaab leverages these allegations to present itself to the rural population as the only uncorrupted, reliable arbiter of justice and order.
Which brings us right back to the stark reality on the ground that we opened with. The fact that Al-Shabaab's control of the road networks immediately surrounding Mogadishu is so thorough.
Thorough enough that senior Somali officials are forced to travel by air for incredibly short distances.
Right. It seems that when a central government cannot physically secure its own supply lines or, the transit routes of its leadership just outside the capital, it completely cedes the narrative of state control.
It cedes both the narrative and the physical geography. I mean, if the government is confined to the airspace, the insurgency becomes the de facto governing authority on the ground.
They become the local state.
Yes. They collect the taxes, they man the checkpoints, and they adjudicate the local disputes.
That internal political failure really brings us to the international response and how insurgents are shifting their tactics in response to foreign intervention.
Right. Looking at the military front, the pace of operations from U.S. Africa Command, or AFRICOM, is significant.
Yes. The intelligence confirms the execution of the 69th U.S. airstrike this year, recently targeting militants near Afmadao in the southern region.
69 strikes in half a year is an immense amount of aerial pressure.
It is. But looking at the broader strategy, this current international approach, it resembles bailing water out of a sinking boat with a bucket, while the captain and the crew are actively arguing over who gets to steer.
Instead of patching the hole in the hull.
Exactly. The aerial pressure is immense, but it is fundamentally a holding action.
And that holding action is facing a highly adaptable adversary. Intelligence assessments indicate a deliberate shift in Al-Shabaab's operational doctrine.
How?
Well, they are moving away from relying solely on mass casualty attacks.
Yeah.
They are progressively prioritizing territorial administration.
So building up those local governance structures we mentioned.
Exactly. They are heavily investing in that. Furthermore, they are adapting their recruitment strategies to bypass counterterrorism profiling.
And this is where the intelligence gets very specific.
Yes. Alongside ISIS affiliates in the region, intelligence shows Al-Shabaab is increasingly recruiting women to fill critical operational roles.
Specifically in intelligence gathering and financial facilitation.
Right.
So how does that mechanical shift actually play out on the ground? I mean, why is the recruitment of women presenting such a complex challenge for the regional security forces?
Well, it exploits traditional cultural and gender dynamics. In highly conservative societies, male security personnel are often hesitant or even culturally prohibited from thoroughly searching female travelers at checkpoints.
Oh, I see.
Right. So by moving women into roles that manage the informal Hawala money transfer networks and gather intelligence in marketplaces, the insurgency embeds its logistics much deeper into the civilian infrastructure.
Which makes targeting the financial nervous system of the group incredibly difficult.
Extremely difficult, yes, without causing widespread disruption to the legitimate civilian economy. Neighboring states are being forced to adapt.
Right. Kenya, for instance, is now imposing targeted financial sanctions specifically aimed at suspected female terrorist operatives in an attempt to freeze these new networks.
Let us evaluate how these developments are being processed by the regional public, drawing on social media sentiment analysis from X.
The data there is highly revealing. Regarding Al-Shabaab, the sentiment is uniformly negative across all monitored demographics.
Right. Users view the organization purely as a violent, destabilizing force.
But when monitoring the broader discussions regarding Somalia itself, the digital environment is heavily polarized.
It seems the public is entirely capable of separating the state apparatus from the national identity.
Exactly. On one hand, the sentiment data shows deep systemic criticism regarding political corruption, the lack of judicial independence, and the ongoing electoral crisis in Mogadishu.
People are highly vocal about the government's failure.
Very vocal, but juxtaposed against that, there is an overwhelmingly positive tone regarding cultural resilience.
Right. The data showed massive digital engagement surrounding Somali Independence Day on June 26.
Yes, alongside widespread support for the inaugural Somalinimo 2026 festival held in Birmingham in the United Kingdom.
And, that data point regarding the diaspora in the United Kingdom is operationally significant.
How so?
Well, the state apparatus in Mogadishu is under immense strain, but the global diaspora network remains remarkably robust. Events like the festival in Birmingham represent more than just cultural preservation.
Right.
They represent the economic backbone of the region. The remittances flowing from the global diaspora are the primary vital lifeline, keeping the civilian population afloat while the internal political and security crises persist.
That makes perfect sense. And this internal vacuum in Mogadishu is not just a domestic issue. It is creating a fractured environment that regional actors are actively exploiting.
Which brings us to the escalating diplomatic situation regarding Somaliland.
Exactly. We are tracking a significant diplomatic tug-of-war following Somaliland's renewed push for international recognition, most notably punctuated by its recent opening of an embassy in Jerusalem.
Right. And to objectively evaluate the fallout from this development, we really have to look at the immediate legal and diplomatic reactions.
The federal government of Somalia obviously views Somaliland as a breakaway province.
Yes, therefore, Mogadishu views any unilateral diplomatic engagement by Hargeisa as a direct, illegal threat to its national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Right. They are aggressively utilizing international legal channels to push back against any nation entertaining formal relations with Somaliland.
But the ripple effects are expanding well beyond the Horn of Africa. According to the intelligence sources, Israel is currently conducting a comprehensive internal review of its initial decision to recognize Somaliland and allow the embassy to open.
Why the sudden backtrack in Tel Aviv?
It is a calculation of geopolitical leverage. Israel initially saw an opportunity to secure a friendly diplomatic foothold in a highly strategic area.
Right.
However, they underestimated the massive regional and international backlash. Tel Aviv is now reportedly fearing severe diplomatic isolation from other African and Islamic nations if they maintain this stance.
Recognizing Somaliland threatens to burn diplomatic bridges that Israel has spent years carefully building across the African continent.
Exactly.
And if you are evaluating this from the outside, it is vital to understand the mechanics of why this specific geography matters so much. This is a massive geopolitical chessboard.
It truly is.
You have the United States, Ethiopia, various Middle Eastern powers, and global shipping interests all vying for leverage. Somaliland's coastline, particularly the deep-water port of Berbera, sits directly adjacent to the Gulf of Aden and the approaches to the Red Sea.
Yes, and with other maritime choke points in the region facing severe disruption, securing naval and commercial access to the Somaliland coast has immediate implications for global trade routing. That is the core dynamic. The internal fragmentation of Somalia is inviting external powers to carve out their own spheres of influence to secure their maritime and security interests.
Moving south, that same geopolitical and economic tension brings us directly to Kenya.
Right, a nation currently managing a stark dual reality.
Let us unpack the security picture there first. We are tracking sustained unrest and public protests in the capital, Nairobi.
Yes, Kenyan security forces have responded forcefully to demonstrations, utilizing tear gas and making multiple arrests.
Interestingly, a significant focal point of this public pushback is a United States-funded Ebola quarantine facility.
Which might seem surprising to some.
Right. Why is a public health facility generating such intense domestic opposition?
It stems from a deep-seated public skepticism regarding sovereignty and foreign influence, while Kenyan President William Ruto has publicly defended the facility.
Stating it's a vital, pragmatic component for regional health security.
Exactly. Portions of the public still view foreign-funded biofacilities with high suspicion. It becomes a flashpoint for broader grievances regarding government transparency and reliance on Western funding.
But this security strain and domestic unrest is occurring simultaneously with a period of massive, aggressive economic ambition.
Right, Kenya is actively pushing to cement its position as the indisputable commercial hub of East Africa.
And the economic data points are massive. The Safaricom-backed East Africa Device Assembly Kenya Consortium recently hit a production milestone of 700,000 locally manufactured digital devices.
Which is a major infrastructural push for regional digital inclusion.
Huge. And in the financial sector, UPSA Group has announced a $238 million tender to increase its controlling stake in ABSA Bank Kenya.
It signals incredibly high institutional confidence from multinational corporations entirely separate from the localized unrest in the capital.
And further illustrating this ambition is the proposal currently on the table for a massive 650,000 barrel-a-day oil refinery backed by billionaire Aliko Dangote.
Right, to be situated in Mombasa.
Exactly. And this project is currently in direct, fierce competition with the port of Tonga in neighboring Tanzania. What are the mechanics of this regional rivalry?
Well, both Kenya and Tanzania are racing to become the primary logistical gateway for the landlocked interior of East Africa.
Countries like Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Exactly. A refinery of that scale in Mombasa would guarantee Kenyan dominance over the region's energy supply chains for decades.
So it is a high-stakes economic race occurring right alongside the tear gas deployments in Nairobi.
Yes. And our social media sentiment analysis perfectly mirrors this complex dual reality. Ex-users in Kenya are highly critical, expressing strong negative sentiment regarding police actions, government transparency, and the handling of the protests.
Yet, concurrently, discussions regarding technology investments, the local manufacturing of devices, and regional economic integration are highly optimistic.
The population is holding two realities simultaneously. They are fiercely demanding better domestic governance and accountability, while fully embracing and driving the country's trajectory as a regional economic and technological powerhouse.
Evaluating all of these moving pieces, what does this mean for the immediate future? Let us look at the forecasts and potential courses of action based on the intelligence estimates.
Over the next 72 hours to the next few weeks, the definitive center of gravity to monitor is the tension between the Puntland regional government and Mogadishu.
Right.
If this political and military standoff fragments any further, it will instantly translate to operational gains for Al-Shabaab.
The mechanics are simple, right? If federal and regional forces are pointing their weapons at each other, Al-Shabaab will immediately exploit that vacuum.
Exactly. They will use it to gain freedom of maneuver, expand their taxation networks, and advance territorially.
Oh.
Additionally, the conclusion of Israel's internal review regarding Somaliland must be watched closely.
Because that decision will trigger immediate diplomatic realignments across the Horn of Africa.
Exactly. Now, looking at the proposed solutions to stabilize the region, we see very different courses of action being advocated by various actors.
Yes, the United States and the African Union are heavily pushing for consensus-based elections and diplomatic dialogue in Mogadishu.
Their primary objective is to build enough foundational stability within the federal government so that scheduled security transitions can proceed.
Specifically, the drawdown of the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, or AUSOM.
Right. They want that to proceed without triggering a total collapse of the state.
Conversely, regional actors operating on Somalia's borders, specifically Kenya and Ethiopia, are increasingly taking unilateral, pragmatic steps that often bypass Mogadishu entirely.
Right, because their immediate priority is not necessarily a strong, centralized Somalia.
Ah.
Their priority is securing their own borders against spillover violence.
And mechanically, this often manifests in them independently funding and supporting regional administrations like Jubaland or Puntland.
Exactly, to act as localized buffer zones, keeping the threat at a distance from their own territory, even if it directly contradicts Mogadishu's wishes for central control.
Before we conclude this intelligence brief, there is one final, highly critical dynamic present in the intelligence that requires objective consideration.
Yes, it is the underlying mechanism driving much of the surface-level instability.
We have extensively evaluated the politics, the economics, and the military tactics. However, operating beneath all of these factors is climate change.
Right, acting as the ultimate silent threat multiplier across East Africa. The region is experiencing severe, protracted drought conditions.
And this is not just an environmental issue, it is a structural security issue.
Exactly. The changing climate is directly causing acute food insecurity and mass displacement.
So how does that environmental desperation mechanically translate into the security threats we are seeing on the ground?
Well, when agricultural livelihoods completely collapse due to drought, you have massive populations of vulnerable, displaced youth moving toward urban centers or internally displaced persons camps.
And these populations become immediate prime targets for human trafficking networks.
Yes. And more critically, they become prime targets for extremist recruitment. Al-Shabaab frequently exploits this desperation by offering basic food provisions, protection, and small amounts of financial compensation to young men who have zero alternative means of survival.
Wow.
Furthermore, the extreme economic desperation exacerbates the prevalence of harmful practices, including female genital mutilation and child marriage, as families seek any available financial relief or dowry to survive the drought.
So, the objective reality of the intelligence is that you cannot sustainably solve a complex security crisis with airstrikes and military holding actions if the changing climate is continuously manufacturing infinite desperation on the ground.
Precisely.
Well, stepping away from the anchor desk for a moment, I really want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
I hope this brief provided you with a really clear, factual picture of the structural mechanics driving the events in East Africa right now. And we want to remind you exactly how you can leverage the same tool that made this level of analysis possible today.
Right. Stylo News is a mobile and computer application that you can literally download right now.
Yeah, it allows you as an individual to customize and generate your very own personal intelligence style briefs. It pulls synthesized data from hundreds of traditional news sources, as well as real-time sentiment analysis from X.
It gives you the ability to cut through the noise, and synthesize vast amounts of information into actionable insight, just as we've done here over the last several minutes.
Absolutely. We highly encourage you to subscribe to Stylo News and get your AI-powered news on demand by visiting www.stylonews.com.
Definitely check it out.
Thank you again for listening. We always welcome your feedback, so please feel free to request topics for future Dick Dives. And don't forget to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms.
As we look at East Africa today, remember that opening analogy.
Right, an international community frantically bailing water out of a sinking boat while the political and environmental foundation just continues to shift beneath them. Stay curious, stay informed, and we will see you next time.